Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय, जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की। हरे कृष्णा। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। 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 नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवते उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। So we are reading from Canto 5, chapter 15, verse number 13. Yat prinanad barhishi devatiryan manushya virutrinam avirinchat प्रियेत सद्या सह विश्वजीवः प्रीतः स्वयं प्रीतिम अगाद्गयस्य यत् प्रीणनाद् बर्हिषि देवतीर्यान् मनुष्य वीरुत्रिणमाविरिञ्चात् प्रियेत सद्य सह विश्वजीवः प्रीतः स्वयं प्रीतिम अगाद्गयस्य यत् प्रीणनाद् बर्हिषि देवतीर्यन् मनुष्य वीरुत्रिणमाविरिञ्चात् प्रियेत सद्य सह विश्वजीवः प्रीतः स्वयं प्रीतिमगाद्गयस्य यत् प्रीणनाद् बर्हिषि देवतीर्यन् मनुष्य वीरुं तृणमाविरिञ्चात् प्रीत सद्य सह विश्वजीवः प्रीतः स्वयं प्रीतिमगाद्गयस्य यत् प्रीणनाद् बर्हिषि देवतीर्यन् मनुष्य वीरुत्रिणमाविरिञ्चात् प्रियेत सद्य सह विश्वजीवः प्रीतः स्वयं प्रीतिमगाद्गयस्य यत् प्रीणनाद् बर्हिषि देवतीर्यान् मनुष्य वीरुत्रिणमाविरिञ्चात् एत सद्य सह विश्वजीवः प्रीतः स्वयं प्रीतिमगाद्गयस्य. Word-to-word meanings. Yad Prinanath, because of pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Barhishi, in the sacrificial arena. Devatiryak, the demigods and lower animals. Manushya, human society. Virut, the plants and trees. Trinam, the grass. Avirinchat, beginning from Lord Brahma. Priyeta, become satisfied. Sadhyaha, immediately. Saha, that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ha, indeed. Vishwajivaha, maintains the living entities all over the universe. Pritaha, although naturally satisfied. Swayam, personally. Pritim, satisfaction. Agat, he obtained. Gayasya, of Maharaj Gaya. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. When the Supreme Lord is pleased by a person's actions, automatically all the demigods, human beings, animals, birds, bees, creepers, trees, grass, and all other living entities, beginning with Lord Brahma, are pleased. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the super soul of everyone, and he is by nature fully pleased. Nonetheless, he came to the arena of Maharaj Gaya and said, I am fully pleased. Purport. It is explicitly stated herein that simply by satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one satisfies the demigods and all other living entities without differentiation. If one pours water on the root of a tree, all the branches, twigs, flowers, and leaves are nourished. Although the Supreme Lord is self-satisfied, he was so pleased with the behavior of Maharaj Gaya that he personally came to the sacrificial arena and said, I am fully satisfied. Who can compare to Maharaj Gaya? Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Vaishnavamshta Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataro Vishya Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langayate Girim Yat Kripatam Ham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram. Hare Krishna. So here we are discussing the activities of Maharaj Gaya. So in the previous verses also we were discussing some of the glories of Maharaj Gaya and about how he ruled the kingdom. So many things were discussed in the previous verses about different qualities of this person, about different qualities of this personality. Like it was mentioned that he had no personal desire for sense gratification. So King Gaya, he was engaged in so many duties. He was the king of the entire place, he was the ruler, he was doing so many duties. But still he had no personal desires for sense gratification. And even in the previous verse it was given when Indra came to drink Somarasa, Indra was very, very much satisfied. Even Supreme Lord was very much satisfied, he also personally came. But Maharaj Gaya had no desire for any kind of benediction. Means any kind of material benediction. He didn't have any kind of such desire. And he was just satisfied by serving. He was just satisfied by engaging in the sacrifice, doing his duty, and constantly meditating on the Supreme Lord. And here we see in the previous verses, he was compared to such amazing rulers. He was compared to Maharaj Yudhishthir. We discussed about that how he was so great, just like his comparison was done to Maharaj Yudhishthir, Maharaj Prithu. Again, who were also very great rulers, and they were just ruling, even though they were pure devotees of the Lord, they were always engaged in devotional service. And as we discussed previously, they were just ruling to set an example. To set an example of how a person should ideally rule the kingdom. And also, when all these people, all these personalities were ruling, we see everyone in the kingdom was satisfied. Because they were engaged in worshipping, or they were engaged in satisfying the Supreme Lord, so automatically everyone was satisfied. And here King Gaya was also personally setting an example of how to satisfy different classes of people. So this also we discussed how he satisfied all the different classes of people that were there in the kingdom. the Brahmanas who were there, so he satisfied them by giving them amazing munificent charity. He was giving them so much charity and they were completely satisfied by his charitable nature, by his nature of Maharaj Gaya. And that's why they gave 1/6 of their credit to him, 1/6 of their pious credits. That was but automatically, because he was satisfying them, the credit automatically goes to the king. When it comes to the Kshatriyas, they were also very, very satisfied. Why they were satisfied? Because he always fought on religious principles. Whenever he used to fight someone, he used to fight exactly or according to the religious principles, and even those people, they were very, very satisfied, very, very happy to see his way of fighting, or see how he was very, very strict when it comes to religious principles. And they were also very satisfied, they also surrendered to him. The Vaishyas, they also, when it comes to Brahmanas, they were satisfied by Maharaj Gaya. Kshatriyas were satisfied by Maharaj Gaya, and even the Vaishyas were satisfied. And they were satisfied by kind words and nice dealings. And same way, even Shudras were satisfied, they were given sumptuous food and charity. So here Maharaj Gaya set an example that he satisfied all the classes of people who were there in his kingdom. And he ruled in a very, very perfect way. But then the amazing description that is there is, he personally had no desire for any kind of gains. Even though he was ruling in such an amazing way, everyone was being satisfied and everything was, resources were there in plenty. But he personally had no kind of desire for any sense gratification. Because his desire was something higher. He was satisfied in worshipping and serving the Supreme Lord. And that's why in the previous verse, purport also Prabhupada writes, although Maharaj Gaya did not want them, he received all the blessings of the demigods and the Supreme Lord himself. So Maharaj Gaya did not wanted all these things. But still, because everyone was satisfied, they blessed him profusely. And they gave him all the benedictions, everything that is needed. And now in this verse it's mentioned that Yad Prinanat Barhishi Devatiryan. That Supreme Personality of Godhead, he was also pleased by all his activities. And this was pretty clear. His philosophy was pretty clear. Maharaj Gaya was pretty clear about whom he wanted to please. He was never confused. He was engaged in so many worldly activities. He was engaged in so many duties. But still his thing was pretty clear that only all of that he was doing only for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality. He was not interested in pleasing anybody. Of course, Indra, we see in the previous verse, Indra was pleased. Here also it's mentioned that all other demigods were pleased. But Maharaj Gaya was fixed that he only wanted to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Or his goal was fixed. And he was satisfied in that. And this we see the mood of all the great devotees that were there. When it comes to so many other personalities in the Bhagavatam, who were also rulers, who were ruling the kingdom, they were also very, very satisfied in just one aspect. That is pleasing the Supreme Personality. When it comes to Maharaj Amrish, also we discussed the same thing. That how, even though he had so many opulent things that were there, opulent kingdom that was there, all the riches that was present in his kingdom, his wife was there, all the different opulences were there. But still his only satisfaction was how he engaged all his senses in the service of the Lord. And he was just satisfied by that. All those things were not for his satisfaction, or he didn't gain any satisfaction with the worldly opulences. And this is the mood that was pretty clear here also. And many other personalities, even we see in the case of Prahlad Maharaj, how he was also satisfied just in worshipping the Supreme Lord, just in thinking about meditating on the Supreme Lord. And how his father in so many ways tried to tell him the opposite. Tried to tell him that I'll give you everything, but you stop worshipping or chanting the names of the Lord. Now it's described when when Hiranyakashipu was ruling the kingdom. So he was completely against all the religious principles. It's described he forcefully stopped all the sacrifices that was going on. He forcefully stopped all the chanting of the holy names that was going on. And rather he used to say that everyone should chant my names. And he forced everyone in the kingdom to chant his names. Like now we chant Jai Narsimha Dev, Jai Prahlad Maharaj. That time everyone was chanting Jai Hiranyakashipu or something like that. So he was forcing everyone like that. But even in those circumstances, Prahlad Maharaj, he didn't move or he didn't shook an inch. He continued practicing his devotional service. Whatever happened, he didn't give up satisfying the Supreme Lord. And naturally, when the Lord is satisfied, automatically everything else is taken care. Means even if someone asks that, okay, we say that everyone else will be satisfied, but here Hiranyakashipu was not satisfied. But then the point is, even after his death, when Narsimhadev personally came and pierced his chest, we know how he tells, Narsimhadev tells that to Prahlad Maharaj, that how all your 21 generations are delivered. So Lord takes care in some or the other way. He takes care for one who engages in his devotional service. He takes care and delivers all those who are dependent on him. And that's how he satisfied every living entity. So here the same thing is mentioned in the purport, that it is explicitly stated herein that simply by satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one satisfied the demigods and all other living entities without differentiation. If one pours water on the root of a tree, all the branches, twigs, flowers and leaves are nourished. So this is a very famous shloka which Prabhupada often quotes many times and made it very clear for all of us. That is this shloka, Yatha taror mula nishechanena tipyanti tat skanda bhujopashakha pranopahara cha yathendriyanam tathaiva sarvahanam achyuteja. So this is a shloka often quoted by Prabhupada, where he makes this thing very clear, that how we can satisfy Supreme Personality or how we can satisfy everyone. So he gives the example of a tree. Just like if someone wants to nourish a tree, someone wants to water a tree, it's natural he'll water at the moola or he'll water at the roots of the tree. No one waters on the branches, no one will water on the flowers or anywhere else. In order to nourish a tree, it has to be watered at the root. Same way, if a person has to be nourished, if we have to nourish ourselves, we take food in the stomach. We don't take food in any place else. We don't eat by our fingers, we don't eat by our eyes. Similarly, it's mentioned, or similarly the shloka says that similarly when we satisfy the Supreme Lord or when we engage in devotional service to the Supreme Lord, automatically everyone else is satisfied. All the demigods, all the other entities, everyone who has to be satisfied is automatically satisfied if we just take care of the root. And this is what we see in the nature of Maharaj Gaya. He knew this pretty clear. He knew all these things pretty clearly, and that's why he was just engaged in one thing, that is satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And finally it's mentioned, although the Supreme Lord is self-satisfied, he was very pleased with the behavior of Maharaj Gaya, that he personally came to the sacrificial anila. So we'll discuss this. Before that, we'll discuss many other shlokas which Prabhupada used to quote in this regard, regarding that how if we just satisfy the Supreme Lord, everyone else will automatically be satisfied. One of the other shlokas he used to quote from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kaile Vashvat Kahe Sudrida Nishchaya Krishna Bhakti Kaile Sarva Karma Krita Hai. So here also he talks about, or here also he used to quote this shloka where it talks about the firm faith that is there. That what is the firm faith that a living entity should have, or that a person should have? That just by engaging in Krishna consciousness, just by taking up to the Krishna devotional service of the Supreme Lord, Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. Automatically everyone else who needs to be satisfied will be satisfied, or automatically everyone else will be taken care. Such a faith is very favorable to the discharge of devotional service. So again, the same point that is made is, if someone has firm determination that just by worshipping the Supreme Lord, just by engaging in devotional service, automatically everyone else will be satisfied. That is the qualification to practice devotional service, having that kind of firm faith in the Supreme Lord. And that is pretty clear by all these references of the Bhagavatam, that how just by worshipping Supreme Lord, automatically all personalities are satisfied. Now there is another pastime that comes in this regard. There is another incident, another place where such a similar shloka is quoted. So this is in the 11th canto in the discussion of Maharaj Nimi. So this also we see when Maharaj Nimi was asking the Navyogendras. So he was asking various questions to the Navyogendras. And one of the Navyogendras, one of the saintly personalities who was a pure devotee, was Karbhajan Muni. So now King Nimi also asked him a question. So King Nimi asked him that what colors and forms to the Supreme Personality appears? In different ages, what are the different colors, what are the different forms in which the Supreme Personality appears, and how is he worshipped? Now there in the description also Karbhajan Muni starts talking about how in different ages the Supreme Personality of Godhead incarnates. He talks about his incarnation in the Satya Yuga, about his incarnations in the Treta Yuga, about his incarnations in the Dwapar Yuga, and finally he talks about his incarnation in the Kali Yuga. And that famous shloka he speaks, Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam, Sango Pangasta Parshadam, Yagye Sankirtane Praye, Yajanti Hi Sumedasa. That in this age, all the intelligent men, all the people who have some intelligence, they take to the congregational chanting of the holy names. Because Lord in this age, he appears, his complexion is not blackish, but he constantly chant the names of Krishna. He constantly chants the holy names. And he appears along with his associates. Basically, we are talking of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So here also, when King Nimi asked this question, Karbhaja Muni was glorifying about the incarnation in Kali Yuga. And there also he speaks a very amazing shloka. And before that, he also speaks multiple things. So Karbhajan Muni speaks that how even the residents of Satya Yuga, even the residents of Treta Yuga, Dwapar Yuga, they also desire to take birth in Kali Yuga. And now this is a very astonishing thing, that why we glorify these yugas, that how people were dharmic in these yugas, people were very much following the Vedic rules and regulations, they were following all the different activities. And but here Karbhajan Muni is telling that all these personalities, they want to take birth in Kali Yuga. And especially is mentioned they want to take birth in South India, or especially because in the region of South India, why they want to take birth in this area? Because there are numerous devotees of the Lord in this region. That is what is mentioned. That because all these personalities, they want to take birth in this place, because there are many, many devotees of the Supreme Lord in this area, in this age of Kali Yuga. And especially it's mentioned about the characteristics of these devotees, that they stay in these places, in holy places, and they drink waters of the holy rivers, like the river Kaveri. They drink waters of the holy rivers of this Dravid Desha, and many, many devotees exist. And that's why even in the past, even all these people want to take birth in Kali Yuga. So this is how Karbhajan Muni was glorifying about this Kali Yuga, about the congregational chanting of the holy names in this age of Kali. And there also he speaks something similar shloka to what we are discussing today. So there he speaks this, Devarshi Bhutapta Ninam Pitrinam, Na Kim Karo Nayam Rini Charajan, Sarvatmana Ya Sharnam Sharanyam, Gato Mukundam Parihitra Kartam. So here he speaks about something similar to satisfying all the living entities. So here he speaks about that how a person in general, or Prabhupada explains that how any person in general is indebted to so many living entities. Here it's speaking about the devas who are there, the demigods who are there. So that is but obvious. They supply us so many things. They supply us sunlight, they supply us rainfall, they supply us so many different things that we have around us. And naturally, when we take service from someone, when we take so many supplies from someone, it's but natural that we become indebted to them. So a person is indebted to the devas. Person is indebted to the rishis who are there, to the sages who are there, who have given us so many things, who have given us the holy scriptures, who have given us different aspects. So a normal person is naturally indebted to these rishis who are there. Then Devarshi Bhutapta, he is indebted to the bhutas, the living entities who are there, because they also give us so many services or so many different help they provide us different times. Then Apta, that is family members, relatives, parents, and that is but natural. Everyone knows that how much a person is indebted or what all they have given us. And sometimes they tell also that we have done so much for you, or we have given you so many things. So naturally we are indebted to Apta also, or the parents, relatives. And then it comes Nrinam, or all the other living entities that are there. And finally the Pitranam, or the forefathers. So it said that a person is not just indebted to living entities of this world, but he is also indebted to the forefathers. Because they have also given the culture, they have also given so many things because of which we are born, or we learn so many things in our life. So naturally it's mentioned that any person in this world is indebted to all these 7 living entities. But now Karbhajan Muni speaks a very amazing thing here. He speaks that Na Kim Karo Nayam Rini Charajan. That there is one class of people who are not at all indebted to all these personalities, or who do not have any kind of debts. And who are the personalities? He says, Sarvatmanaya Sharnam Sharanyam Gato Mukundam Parihatra Kartam. That one who takes shelter of Lord Mukunda, one who surrenders to Lord Mukunda, such kind of personality is not indebted to all these living entities. Such a person who has taken complete shelter of devotional service of the Lord, so that personality is not at all indebted to all these living entities. So now this point has to be understood nicely. When we speak about indebted to all these living entities, when it comes in a material sense. So materially, if anyone who does not serve all these living entities, in general people don't nowadays. So naturally they are sinful. Naturally they'll get sinful reactions because they are not doing their responsibilities or they are not doing their duties. But now we are talking of something of one class of people who have taken complete shelter of the Supreme Lord. Like simple example we can understood, Prabhupada gives many examples. Like an example of someone becomes a secretary of the Prime Minister. Someone is serving the Prime Minister, so naturally he does not need to serve any other person lower than that. Naturally all his debts or all his responsibilities are cleared. Because he is serving the highest person in the country. And same way, when it comes to Supreme Lord, if someone surrenders to the Supreme Lord, naturally his need of surrendering or naturally his need of serving anyone else becomes nullified, or he does not need to serve anyone. He is not indebted to anyone else. And now someone might say, how is this possible? Someone will say, how is it that he is not indebted, especially when it comes to parents? Someone say, how is not indebted to his parents? They have given him birth, they have given him this body, they have given him all the facilities that are there. Then how can we say that such a person is not indebted even to his parents? So very nicely Prabhupada explains in that same purport. Someone might say like that the body has given by the parents. But let's say, what if the parents, many times it happens, what if a deformed son is born? What if male and female unite but no son is born? They become impotent due to some reasons. Or sometimes the child is born but the child dies right at birth. Or child doesn't grow to the sufficient age, to the mature age, he dies prematurely. Anything can happen anytime, and this is not under anyone's control. So the point that is made is that even that body that is given to us, body which has been given to us by our parents, that is also because of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Ultimately, if the mercy of the Supreme Lord is not there, nothing else can happen in this world, or we cannot get anything in this world. Even when it comes to taking birth in this world, or when it comes to being indebted to our parents, that is also the mercy of the Supreme Lord. That's why we are able to take birth, we are able to grow, and we are able to get all the things we have. So this is the point that is made, that nothing in this world can happen independently. Whatever we have got, ultimately it's all because of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Even when it comes to all the different facilities which are provided by the demigods to us, they also cannot provide us anything independently, because they are also dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Lord. They provide us all these things, that is also because they are having that mercy, or they are having that power that is given to them by the Supreme Lord. Same way, the culture that has been given to us in our society, in our homes, the intelligence that has been given to us, again, that intelligence also we understand, that intelligence is coming from the Supreme Lord. Ultimately, everything comes from the Supreme Lord. So one thing that is pretty clear, that one who serves or one who engages in the devotional service to the Supreme Lord, giving up all other engagements, giving up all other kinds of engagements, such a person has no debts. And here a very amazing point was mentioned in the purport. Prabhupada translates this commentary of Srila Jiva Goswami. So there he writes that when a person surrenders to Lord Krishna, he takes shelter of the Lord's promise to liquidate all other responsibilities and debts of the surrendered soul. So this Prabhupada uses this very amazing term of liquidate, a business term. So generally liquidate is meant when a business is getting closed. When a business closes, so we sell off all the assets which are there. We sell off all our assets just to give the debts to all the customers who are there. And here Jiva Goswami is writing that one who takes shelter of the Lord, or one who engages in the devotional service of the Lord, he is taking shelter of the promise of the Lord. And what is the promise? That we are closing all other businesses. When someone is engaging in the devotional service, he is closing all other businesses, all other responsibilities that are there. But the Lord has taken the promise, he will liquidate all the responsibilities, all the other business he will take care. And a person who surrenders to the Supreme Lord, he takes shelter of this promise of the Lord. And that is why such a person does not have any other, and does not need to require or does not need to satisfy any other entity. Now, of course, both extremes are there. Now, one is, okay, a person comes, he takes to devotional service just because of this reason. He thinks, okay, so I do not need to satisfy anyone else in this world. This is pretty easy. Because otherwise, if I go in the other side of the life, then I'll have so many responsibilities. I'll have to satisfy my forefathers. I'll have to satisfy my parents. I'll have to satisfy all these demigods. So better not engage in that. Better just give it up. Just give up these responsibilities. But then they are not fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. So naturally, that also Prabhupada explains, such a person gets more sin than a person, more sin than a person who is actually not engaged in devotional service, or who is a materialistic person. Person who unnecessarily gives up his responsibilities, but at the same time he is not fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. So that is another extreme, just running out of responsibilities, but at the same time not having enough faith in the devotional service of the Lord. So that is also not there, that unless a person doesn't have that faith, he cannot engage in full-time devotional service. And of course, this shloka that is given, very nice shloka, which explains about this. Tavat karmani kurvita na nirvidyata yavata mad katha shravanaduva shraddha yavan na jayate. So this verse, it clarifies this point to a very amazing extent. It speaks about that as long as a person is not satisfied by fruitive activities, or not satisfied by different activities, different engagements of this world, and as long a person does not have any taste in hearing about the devotional service, hearing about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, if a person is not satisfied with these activities and he has not awakened even little bit taste for hearing the pastimes or chanting the names of the Lord, such a person has to perform all the regulative principles of the Vedic scriptures. Such a person untimely cannot give up the Vedic principles just because thinking that I take shelter of the Lord and I'll get free from all these restrictions or free from all these debts. Then such a person will get many sinful reactions, or will get many kinds of sinful reactions for not taking care of his responsibilities. But only a person, and in that purport also Prabhupada clarifies it very nicely, that even a person who claims that I am the devotee of the Supreme Lord and he gives up all his responsibilities, such a person is not actually a Vaishnava. If he does not have taste in hearing the pastimes of the Supreme Lord, if he does not develop at least some taste in hearing chanting about the Supreme Lord, then such a person cannot call himself a Vaishnava, because he has given up all his responsibilities untimely or in an unnecessary way. Because ultimately we see all these responsibilities that are given, they are also given in the Vedic scriptures. They are also orders of the Supreme Lord. They are not independent. And one cannot just abruptly or without any purpose give up these responsibilities unless he has engaged in something higher. And what is that something higher? That is given as Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janaiti Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chayad Ahetukam. That if he engages in devotional service, and automatically these things come in him, automatically he becomes detached from all the non-devotional engagement, detached from all the non-devotional activities, and at the same time he develops some positive knowledge about the Supreme Lord. Then only such a person can claim, or such a person can give up all other responsibilities. Otherwise, that's a very, very dangerous condition. Otherwise, a person who has not developed all this and then he gives up all the responsibilities untimely, then he'll have to suffer sinful reactions because of breaking the regulative principles, because of breaking the Vedic injunctions. So that is what is explained, that in that verse of Devarshi Bhutap, that a person who surrenders to the Supreme Lord, definitely he becomes free from all other responsibilities. But at the same time, if he is not fixed in the devotional service, if he does not gives up all other unnecessary engagement and not full-time engaged in devotional service, then such a person has to suffer a lot, because he is giving up the Vedic injunctions and he is not also taking shelter of the Supreme Lord. And of course, later on, Prabhupada explains, for those devotees who have given up all other engagements, who have completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord, what if these people also sometimes engaged in some unnecessarily sinful activities? So in the next verse also, it's explained, Karbhajan Muni also explains this to Maharaj Nimi, that a person who is very, very sincere, A person who is completely engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, but sometimes due to some illusion, sometimes due to some effect of material modes, if he engages, he deviates from the path of pure devotional service, then Lord takes care of such a devotee. If a person who has surrendered and who has decided that he wants to engage in devotional service, but still due to some effect or some force of material activity, some force of material modes, he engages in some sinful activity, then Lord takes care of such a person. That person need not do any kind of other prayaschitta, that person need not do any other kind of activity. He just needs to continue his devotional service. And Lord within, he will purify all the other sins that are there. Lord will take care of any kind of sins he'll get. He does not need to engage in any other activity. What to speak of punishment? Even Yamraj, it said Yamraj has no jurisdiction over such a person. Because he is completely engaged in the devotional activities of the Lord, devotional service of the Lord, even if sometimes accidentally he engages in some abominable activity, such a person, Lord takes care to purify such a person. He does not need to take care, or he does not need to do anything else. And we have many such examples. We have the example of Ajamil and many other examples in the scriptures who are there. And the example is mentioned just like, how is it possible? Someone may ask this question, that we spoke about, that Lord has given all the Vedic injunctions, Lord has given all the scriptures, Lord has given the different rules and regulations that a person need to follow. Then how is it that such a person who is completely surrendered to the Supreme Lord, how does the Lord forgive him? Or why is the Lord forgiving him for transgressing his own rules and regulations? Because the general rules and regulations have also been created by the Supreme Lord. Then why for such a person who might be fully devoted to the Lord, if he engages in some sinful activity, why does the Lord forgive him? And this is also very nicely explained, and there is a word that is used, this priyasya. That these people who have given up all other engagements just to engage in the devotional service, they are very, very priyasya, or they are very, very dear to the Supreme Lord. These devotees, they are very, very dear to the Supreme Lord, just like a small son, small child who is very, very dear to his father. And sometimes the child may do some abominable activity, do some activity which may not be liked by the father. But the father still forgives such activity. Father doesn't take those activities much seriously. Same way, these devotees who have given up all other engagements, even if sometimes they deviate from the path, because they are very, very dear to the Lord, or Lord likes these devotees very much, Lord takes care to purify these devotees, or Lord purifies all the sinful reactions they get. And they need not engage in any other activity, or they need not take to any other kind of prayaschitta. Of course, this doesn't have to be misused. It's not that Lord's mercy is there, so a person misuses. The mood of the devotee is also given. So devotee, when he does any kind of sinful activity, he is in the mood of repentance. He is a mood of repentance. He feels that I am meant to suffer, or I have done something sinful, I will get the suffering, or I should get the sufferings of this. And he feels very, very sad within his heart. But it's the mercy of the Lord that he lets it go, or he purifies that entity. Lord does not let him suffer. But devotee does not think like this. And we have many examples from the Bhagavatam also. We have example of Parikshit Maharaj himself. When he came to know he had got the curse for putting that snake around that Brahmana, when Shringi cursed him, Parikshit Maharaj didn't think like that why did the Lord do this to me? Or why didn't the Lord protect me? He fully took it as a mercy of the Supreme Lord. He thought that this is my reactions only. I did that activity and I was meant to suffer. In fact, even before he came to know he was cursed, he was thinking like that something should happen to me, some suffering should come to me because I had offended a devotee, or I had offended a Brahmana. So this is a mood of the devotee. If they accidentally fall out, they have a mood of repentance. They feel very, very sorry for the sinful activity which they did. And they are ready to accept the sufferings. But this is just the mercy of the Supreme Lord, that he doesn't let his devotees suffer. He takes care of them in some or the other way. Like in the case of Parikshit Maharaj, he took care of him. He heard the Bhagavatam, he got liberated, or he went back to Godhead. In many other cases, in the case of Chitraketu Maharaj also, even though he was born in the family of demons, his devotional services was still kept intact. Or even in the family, even when he was born as Vritrasura, he remembered all the devotional service he had performed. And he was such a great devotee that even Indra was confused while fighting with him. Indra was also thinking whether I should kill this person or not. Because he was such a great devotee, he was always thinking, he was just saying that you kill me quickly because I want to go back. I want to go back to the spiritual world. So such a mood we see of the devotees, that Lord always takes care of the devotees when they are completely dependent on him. Even if seemingly they might engage in some sinful activity, accidentally. That is what is mentioned here. And finally, the point that is mentioned in the purport, that although the Lord is self-satisfied, he was so pleased with the behavior of Maharaj Gaya that he personally came to the sacrificial anira and said, I am fully satisfied. So this we see another nature, another feature of the mercy of the Supreme Lord. Even though he's fully satisfied, we have many shlokas how Lord is satisfied in himself. He is Atmaram. He does not need anyone to serve him or anyone to engage in his devotional service, only then he becomes satisfied. Lord is always satisfied within himself. And even the great yogis, they are meditating on the Supreme Lord and they feel transcendental pleasure in that meditation. As we say, Ramante yogino anante satyananda chitatmani iti ram pade nasav param brahma bidiyate. That Supreme Lord, who is also called as Ram, is the source of transcendental pleasure for all these devotees who are there. All these yogis are meditating on him and they get transcendental pleasure. And such a Lord who is always in his own pleasure, who is always self-satisfied. Here we see his merciful nature, but still he personally comes to the arena. Still he personally comes to the arena and tells to Maharaj Gaya that I am fully satisfied with your offerings. And this we say the amazing nature of the Lord, who has no need to do anything, who is completely self-satisfied. But still, this is a nature of reciprocation of the Lord with his devotees, or with his great devotees, with his pure devotees, that when they satisfy the Lord, when they please the Lord, Lord personally comes and reciprocates with them. And here he personally came to the arena of Maharaj Gaya, and he mentioned this, I am fully satisfied, I am fully pleased by your devotional service. And this is an amazing reciprocation of the Lord with his devotees. Again, we see many cases of the Bhagavatam, we have seen such things, where Lord personally comes and blesses the devotees and reciprocates with different loving propensity, a loving reciprocation with the devotees. So this is what we see, that if a person engages in satisfying the Supreme Lord, if a person gives up all other engagements, he need not engage in any other activity if he is just engaged in the devotional service of the Lord, and automatically all other things will be taken care. And then finally we see that how the Lord personally is so merciful that when a person gives up all other engagements just to satisfy him, Lord personally reciprocates in different ways with his devotees. Like here he reciprocates by personally coming there in the arena and personally telling it to Maharaj Gaya that I am fully satisfied. In multiple other pastimes also we see, like in the pastime of Dhruv Maharaj, Lord personally came in front of Dhruv Maharaj and then he put his conch shell over his head and even satisfied Dhruv Maharaj in that way. So we see how in different pastimes, even though the Lord, who is completely fully satisfied in himself, just to reciprocate with his devotees, he descends and engages in different activities just to satisfy his devotees. So these two things we understand from this pastime. One is that if a person engages in the devotional service of the Lord, naturally he has no other need to satisfy anyone else. All other things will naturally be taken care, all others will naturally be satisfied. And another thing is a merciful nature of the Lord, that when one desires to please the Lord, engage in devotional service of the Lord, or when one takes one step closer to the Lord is very merciful. He takes 100 steps closer to that entity, or he is very eager to serve, or very eager to reciprocate with that devotee. And that is what we see in the case of Maharaj Gaya, that how he personally comes and tells that I am fully satisfied. So with this I would like to pause here. Any questions, comments we can take?
I have one question.
Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, thank you for the lecture. Prabhuji, like you told that if a person give up all his responsibilities but not develop taste in chanting and hearing about Krishna Kada, then he is not eligible. Then he will get sinful reactions. You told me, Prabhuji. So my question is, I don't have a taste in chanting. My chanting is mechanical. Krishna Kada also I'm listening, but not like so much of taste. So we should think that until and unless we get the taste in chanting and hearing Krishna Katha, then only we become eligible. Should we have to think like that, or we should wait till we get the taste of chanting, then only we can start developing?
No, if you have developed sufficient faith by the mercy of devotees, if we have that kind of faith, and the point is giving up all other non-devotional engagements. If one surrenders full time, he wants to be engaged and he gives up all other non-devotional engagements, he has faith in the devotional service. Of course, taste and all comes with time only. Even I have not developed, so I cannot speak about that. But if one fully engages in devotional service, gives up all other engagements, and he has attraction to these activities, at least he likes doing all these activities, he doesn't want to do any other activity, then such a person is qualified to take up. But that shloka that clearly in the translation Prabhupada writes that if some person does this just out of a sense of that he wants to get out of other responsibilities, that I don't want to do other responsibilities, I want to get free from those responsibilities, so he takes to this path, but he has no any kind of attraction for these kinds of limbs of devotional service, then such a person will get sinful reactions because of transgressing the Vedic rules and regulations. But if a person has some attraction for these activities, he can engage in all these activities and has faith that the Lord will take care, or has faith in the protection of the Lord, then such a person can take to this activity. I think Prabhuji can answer this question. Hare Krishna.
Satisfying the Lord. So it's very inspiring. Always to meditate on Prahlad Maharaj, that how in every situation he was satisfying the Lord. So even I can meditate on this, that how I can do the same, that how in every situation I can satisfy the Lord. And just by engaging in bhakti, everything else will be taken care. So if someone is engaged in the angas of bhakti, naturally everything will be taken care. This faith has to develop with time. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for this wonderful class. So he spoke that Maharaj Gaya, goal of Maharaj Gaya is just to please the Supreme Lord. And you gave various other example of Amrish Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj. So these all devotees, they surrender to Lord and take shelter of Lord. And by that, this devotion service, Lord take care of them. Lord take care of everything of them, and these devotees are very dear to Lord, and Lord takes charge of their whatever they are doing, and He personally come and reciprocate with them. Here Maharaj Gaya, with Maharaj Gaya, Lord came and he said, "I am satisfied." So he reciprocate also with them. So I should also engage in devotion service wonderfully, so that I also develop this kind of surrender to Lord. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhuji, thank you very much for this nice class. This point was very nice, that one may ask that how can one become indebted to, one can become free of all debts just by simply serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As one may say that I have got this body from my parents. So, but even if male and female they come together, it's not necessary that child will be born sometimes due to impotency, or sometimes child is born but he dies early, sometimes he dies in womb. So ultimately everything depends upon mercy of Krishna only. And also talking about the case of demigods, for demigods also they can give us results only when sanction of Supreme Lord is involved. So in this way we can understand that just by serving simply Supreme Personality of Godhead, everyone will be satisfied and will be free of all kind of debts. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for nice class. So you told King Gaya had no personal desire. He had only something higher desire, that is to serve Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by satisfying Supreme Person, one can satisfy everyone. And you told that we are already indebted to so many things, like 7 living entities you told, and who do not have any debt towards they are who are surrendered to Supreme Personality of Godhead. And at last you told when one takes one step towards the Lord, Lord takes 1,000 steps towards him. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the class. So, Prabhuji, like you said, just by pleasing Supreme Personality of Godhead, all demigods and other living entities are automatically satisfied. And the qualification to practice pure devotional service is having firm faith that by engaging in Krishna consciousness, automatically everything else will be taken care. We should have that firm faith, and that is the qualification you told, Prabhuji. That is, I need to contemplate. And like Prabhuji, like you gave the example of Jiva Goswami. Like Jiva Goswami said that who engages in devotional service of the Lord promises that all other things will be liquidified. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class. So just by worshipping Supreme Personality of Godhead, everyone will be satisfied. And one who surrenders to Govinda is not indebted to living entities. Those who are fully surrendered to Krishna, even they commit sinful activities by accident or sometime, Krishna will take care. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the very nice class. So you mentioned like how Maharaj Gaya by his behavior and attitude he pleased the Brahmanas by giving charity, Kshatriyas by fighting on religious principles, Vaishyas by pleasing words and Shudras by taking care of them, like that. Although he didn't specifically try to please them, but they were all pleased because he was trying only to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And by satisfying the Supreme Personality of Godhead, trying to please him, everybody else were automatically pleased, just like a tree. If you water the roots of the tree, the entire tree will be nourished. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.